is William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I welcome you to another Two Hats special of community events. Let's look in and see what's really happening.
And welcome to Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis and the late Patti Fink. Our guest today, I guess I need to explain what's going on because we might have a guest, we might not. They're on a plane right now. They're supposed to land in about 10 minutes. When they do land, they'll get off the plane. They're going to make a connection between their iPhones, then call us on one phone, so we only have to put one on the air, not both of them. And we're going to talk. They're two musicians. They wrote a song called, I believe, Her. I don't know who Her is, but we'll find out.
I'm going to guess.
You're going to guess?
Yeah.
Okay, guess.
Dr. Christine Blasey Ford.
It's possible. It's possible. I thought it was Brett Kavanaugh's wife that they believe.
It could be Anita Hill.
It could be her. Could be her. We'll ask them if they come on.
It could be a lot of Anitas and a lot of Dr. Fords.
It could be, yes.
We might have a guest coming on. I've heard sometimes, now this has never happened to me, but sometimes planes are late. Have you ever had that happen to you?
No, never.
No, I never have, but people have told me that sometimes planes are late.
Yeah.
So if it is, they might not land until after the show's over. But we wanted to get them on while their song is really just very current. But let's just talk a little bit about the elections. The big news in Texas elections this week is that Beto O'Rourke raised more money in the last quarter than any other senatorial candidate in history. Not just in Texas, any senatorial candidate anywhere.
And
ever.
Let's note that that was over 3 times more than Ted Cruz raised.
Okay, but the other half of this, and here's where it's important, is the Quinnipiac poll showed that Ted Cruz is ahead by 8 points. Why do you think the turnaround? Because they were neck and neck. Do you think it's that Cruz's ads have suddenly hit the airwaves?
My personal opinion is that the polls are wrong. I don't think that one of the things that we know that a lot of polls don't get are newly registered voters. So there are a lot of voters out there, especially young voters, who have registered and they're not getting polled. And when they show up at the polls, the question is, will they show up at the polls? That will be that'll be a victory for him if they all show up, because there are thousands and thousands of them in Texas who are fired up for Beto, but they'll need to vote to show that.
Here's where I think what happened with the polls to some extent. You know, I'm sure it's all of these things. Cruz was late in getting his TV on. He's all over TV airwaves now, and people are coming around. Oh yeah, Beto O'Rourke is this liberal. Nancy Pelosi. And do you love all the Republican ads? I love them because they all just throw in Soros.
Yeah.
What does he have to do with anything?
I have been an active, a hyperactive Democrat for decades, and I've never even been offered payment for anything. I mean, we, out of our own pockets, make posters and buy our own DART rail tickets and get down there to the protest. And if you're like me, you keep a protest kit in the box and in the car.
And she does. I've seen it. She does.
An emergency protest kit with some poster board and some markers in case a protest breaks out. You don't have a chance to run home.
Be prepared. I don't know with the polls. I'm just a little jaded about them. I think everybody should just get out and vote. Not saying who to vote for, just vote. And don't not vote because you think your candidate is leading or you think your candidate is losing. Just go vote. Because, if we rest on what the polls say, and they're all a little bit different. Look and see what happened at the last presidential election.
Here's a better reason even to vote. there have been hundreds of elections throughout history, including the last election, in state house elections across the country, including elections in Texas, that were won by one vote. So your vote does matter.
Your vote does matter.
There was a study that was done about these recently, and there have literally been several hundred elections that have been decided by one vote.
You know what? The one that comes back to me was a city council race many years ago, where an environmental attorney, Jill Coffis, ran against Sheffy Kadane, and it was his first. It was an open seat, and it was going to be, somebody new in this seat, no matter what. And when it came down to it, she lost by 26 votes, and it hurt my heart for years. It still hurts my heart because we had Sheffy Kadane then for 8 years. And he was, he started out being sort of pro-LGBT and then didn't change his mind. But, it comes home. And lots of people can point to a race in their immediate environment that said, wow, that was way too close.
And going back to the polling, Patty was saying that, a huge demographic, which are their new eligible voters, probably aren't being polled. Well, you know what? I've been eligible for a long time now, and I don't get polled.
Really? I've been polled many times.
Danny and I have been polled once, and that was during, I think it was during Obama's second term. While he was running for his second term, we got phone calls for that. Other than that, we're never polled. We've never missed an election. We're not hard to find. So, we get all kinds of political stuff in the mail, but as far as a phone call, being polled, once.
The last time I remember being polled was, and Patty's going to laugh, Humphrey Nixon.
I am laughing.
Oh, wow.
That was my parents.
I was just polled a couple of weeks ago about John Turner versus Lisa Libby Ryan.
Well, for years they weren't polling anybody on cell phones, but they're over that now, aren't they?
A lot.
I still haven't gotten it.
See, here's the deal. They'll say, "Oh, our sampling size was this." Well, oftentimes those are skewed for more Republicans than Democrats, and then some sort of fluky number for independents. And so how they balance that, and because literally, if you look at the data and the entire raw data, it's like, well, they polled more Republicans than they polled Democrats. And they say, well, that's statistically normal for an area. Well, no, this is a different election. That can skew things, about who's going to show up. And then by age, and then by, so the sampling is key. And there are now a mix of cell phones and landlines. But if they were doing just landlines, which I think is predominantly what happened in 2016, and, I know people who are in their 80s who have no landline anymore. They just keep their cell phones.
Yeah.
And,
Well, the one time I was polled, it was a landline.
And you know how I'm always up on the latest technology. I haven't had a landline since about 1998.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
We still have a landline.
We still have a landline.
See, I don't want to hear anything from the two.
No, but we have both.
We have both, too.
Yeah, we have both.
Yeah, no, I just haven't had a landline since about 1998.
But
just didn't see a need for it.
You know what? Since Katrina, when Aaron's parents we didn't hear from them for 6 days. We've kept a landline because they'll work when there is no power. That sort of thing. But now we know that if you text during some sort of major weather event, which the queers cause, then those are likely to get through more so than a cell call,
right?
A telephone call. But we keep a landline, and we've never been. Well, I haven't been pulled on it in a long time.
Yeah. So you're talking about, I guess the young people, the newly eligible voters. Do you think it's harder now to get new 18-year-olds to get out and vote, 18 to 21-year-olds to vote, than ever before?
I think it is.
I wonder why.
I come from an era where I could not wait to vote.
Same here. I could not wait to. As a matter of fact, I remember the first person I voted for. It was Ann Richards. It was a gubernatorial race.
Awesome.
That was my first It was 1990. I just turned 18. Me and my friends, we couldn't wait to go vote.
I was excited too. And remember the movie The Breakfast Club?
Mm-hmm.
Who was the geeky guy that in that one? And they were comparing things later in the movie, and he pulled out this fake ID, and they said, "That's a horrible fake ID." and he says, "Why do you need a fake ID anyway?" And he goes, "So I can vote." And nobody does that anymore.
Right, does that anymore.
Well,
that
prosecuting for people who vote who aren't supposed to.
So who did you guys first vote for?
Carter.
Oh.
Yeah.
You?
But Carter v. Reagan, not Carter.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
The
first of all,
election before that, not Nixon.
Dementia sitting in.
Yeah, exactly.
Humphrey.
No, that was 68. 72 was my first election.
okay.
McGovern.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And in my city and in Massachusetts, he won. That was it.
Interesting.
I was in Albany, New York. It was a landslide for McGovern.
Wow.
Not so much the rest of the state. But
So that was the year that you all turned 18.
yeah.
I turned 18 in 80. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was probably eligible before that because
Sometimes you might fall in the middle.
72. So the year before I would have been eligible, but New York had horrible absentee ballot laws, and they still have no early voting or anything like that. Very backwards voting. And so that was the first one I actually voted in because I was in school. I couldn't get to where I would have been registered.
Wait, were you even here? Were you in Libya?
I was in, when I turned 18, I was in Switzerland.
Switzerland, okay.
Yeah.
So would you do absentee?
No, because I was here by the time Election Day came.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I was here.
Oh, cool.
And I remember I was in Waco because I was at Baylor, and it was a long line at an elementary school not far from campus, and I stood in line for a long time. I mean, probably 2 hours.
Yeah.
To try to get in to vote. But I wasn't going to give up my spot in line, that's for sure. And I went in the afternoon, which you can do when you're a student. And I waited it out, and it was well worth it.
Yeah.
Well, here with early voting is easy. The only time here I think I've ever had to wait online to vote, the year Reagan won, there were not enough voting machines that year. And Obama's first year, there were long lines.
Very long lines
to vote.
Wow, that was in the thick of the Republicans trying to suppress the vote as well. So they were reducing early voting in some of those states, reducing locations where you could vote.
We have a lot of that going on now.
Voter ID kicked in many states. Ours kicked in 2012. It didn't affect the 2008 election, but that kind of stuff was already rolling very heavily at the time. And so they would not be, here's the deal. They would not be trying to suppress the vote if that vote was not powerful.
Yep.
And so for people to say, my vote won't count, hell yeah, it will. And if you're one of these people who is relying on a poll that says, oh, well, the poll says that it's going to win, so I don't. This person's going to win, so I don't need to go vote. They don't need my vote. Well, the poll is predicting that they'll win if you vote, because it's supposed to be representative of the community. And if everybody acts like you and doesn't go vote, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
There was a Siena College poll that came out this week, and I noticed it because Siena College is this small college in Albany, New York, where I'm from, and I'm thinking, Siena College, why did they care about Colin Allred and Pete Sessions? But it's possible that one of the campaigns had asked them to do the poll or something. But they're showing that race is neck and neck.
Oh, yeah. Well, Pete Sessions doesn't even live here. He was in Florida.
Right. So, do you know what I love about his ads? Colin Allred's ads have generally been upbeat and talking about himself and what he'd like to do if he's elected. Then comes on Pete Sessions. Well, the Democrats are sure attacking me because I led the charge against Nancy Pelosi, and it's because of me that she's not Speaker of the House. No, it's because the Republicans took over the House. That's what got her out of. But they are so negative. But they're negative in their accusing the Democrats of negative ads.
It's the same with Ted Cruz. But I did see a negative ad from Colin where he plays that notorious clip of Pete Sessions yelling at a constituent.
That one did not come out, though, until Pete Sessions started running negative ads.
Right.
That's when he issued that ad.
But I haven't seen a negative ad by Beto O'Rourke.
No.
At all.
And you know what? I read something about that this week, that he does not like going negative. He doesn't like going negative at all. And they're saying, especially with his 8-point deficit right now, he has to. So, yeah, I'm with him. I agree. I don't like negative ads. It doesn't give me a reason to want to vote for you. Ted Cruz's ads are entirely negative.
We couldn't even end the first debate. And then there's another one coming up on Tuesday, by the way. So if you guys want to tune in, it's Tuesday evening, the next Beto versus Cruz debate. But even in the first one, the very last question was basically say something nice about your opponent. And Beto said, he's a family man. I know what it means to sacrifice, to run for office. You're away from your family a lot, and I admire that, that he's sacrificed that. And Ted Cruz couldn't do it. He could not say something nice. He attacked Beto on a compliment question. And that's why the whole debate ended with Beto saying true to form. Because he couldn't do it. He could not be positive. He could not be anything but negative.
Back to the Allred Sessions race, Congregation Beth El Banah, which is the LGBT synagogue, is co-sponsoring a debate next Sunday evening at 7:30 at Temple Shalom, which is on Hillcrest at Alpha. Everybody's welcome between the two of them. So.
Oh, really?
Should be interesting, yeah.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. We need to take a break. You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis and the late Patti Fink. Hopefully our guests are landed and they're quickly getting off their plane, especially if they sat at the front of the plane. But then they need to find a quiet place in the terminal where they can talk. So it might take them even if their plane landed on time and they opened the door and let them out, it might take them a little bit to... we're hoping we have our guests later in this hour. If not, we'll talk about what they were going to come on to talk about. So we'll be back with more Lambda Weekly, more news roundup, other topics right after this.
Hey guys, I'm C.D. Curvin, and you're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 KNON.
And this is Lambda Weekly. Obviously, Josh is not here today.
I'm complaining about traffic.
Okay.
And he's driving to work now for the first time in how long?
Oh, almost 20 years.
20 years, so she's feeling the stresses that we all feel every day.
There's some idiots out there.
Yeah, you tell it.
And I feel like making a poster and holding it up.
Patty,
you're not special.
Here's where I'm worried about you, Patty, and your new job. Are you getting to work on time?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's not the problem.
Because when she worked at home, she would show up late every day.
That's not true. That's not true at all. My 10-foot commute.
I understand when my complaint about driving is when it's raining, I understand you want to be careful, but that doesn't mean you have to drive at 5 miles per hour.
No kidding.
The other day when it was pouring, I usually don't pick Gabriella from school, but when I do, it's maybe 35-minute drive from work to her school. It took me an hour and 20 minutes to pick her up.
Wow. And this is the same with people on their phone. There are people who cannot multitask. If they're on their phone, they're going 10 miles an hour.
Put the phone down if you can't do it.
I was going to make a series of... Maybe I should just copyright these things and patent this thing so I could hold it up like with a little paint stick,
Yeah.
Put them on there, and then I can hold it up at the window to say these things to people. But it's the people who coming from a shopping center, not a residential street where they live, which I could understand, but a shopping center we're waiting for the light, 3 lanes of traffic. They want to cross all 3 lanes of traffic and get in the left turn lane. I'm like, no. You are not Moses, and we are not the Red Sea, and you are not special. I'm just, it just... Patty's rant.
So,
Lerone, anything?
Yes.
Oh,
go ahead.
No, I have a story. If you
Go ahead.
I think Governor Abbott said that he's not going to bring up the bathroom bill this year. We'll see.
Dan Patrick's going to bring it up for him.
There you go. But, this isn't just limited to Texas. And here's a story came out this week of how ridiculous and the horrible repercussions of having such laws. In Virginia, in a middle school, they had a active shooter drill, and a trans student was prevented from going into either the boys or the girls' locker rooms where everybody ran for shelter.
To get away from flying bullets.
To get away from flying bullets. Again, this was just a drill, but seriously, in reality, they would rather keep the student out of shelter with everyone else.
Because what were they doing in the locker room during this drill?
Thank you.
Praying for their lives.
Exactly. And
they put her up on. I can't remember male or female.
Actually, I don't.
But this kid was required to sit on bleachers in a gym. Talk about open target for the active shooter.
Yes. Well, and also during this, there were some teachers who were saying no, she needed to go let her go into one of the locker rooms. There's some other teachers were debating. They were literally in the middle of debating where she should go in the middle of the drill. So, I mean, you're talking about putting everybody's lives at risk.
You know what?
So they finally settled down, taking her to the gym.
If there was a boy who happened to be walking by the girls' locker room and an active shooter starts, you grab that kid and throw him into that room.
Sure. Absolutely. This is insanity.
Nobody is getting dressed during the drill.
Insanity.
This is discrimination, insanity.
Yeah. It's like,
it's not discrimination, it's hatred. That's hatred.
It is hatred. And we're not even talking about locker rooms. It wouldn't have even come up had it not been a locker room. If they said the safe place to go is in the teacher's lounge.
Right.
All the kids would have gone in the teacher's lounge.
I mean, what do they think a trans student is going to do in the middle of an active shooter in the restroom or locker room with whichever? I don't care if it's male or boys or girls. What do you think they're going to go do in there?
It's insane.
Seriously?
That is discrimination taken to the insanity degree.
The idea that they're dividing up. Okay, girls, you go in here, and boys, you go in. No, you go into the one that's closest.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And you pray for your life just like everybody else, and you don't expect a teacher to say, no, you have to sit out there and be a target for the active shooter.
I mean,
we're going to waste you so that we don't have to, we don't have to die today.
So, of course, there have been some complaints in the school district.
I would hope so. I hope somebody's fired for that.
They said they're investigating, of course.
What are you investigating?
Yeah.
How did she end up in bleachers? That's in the gym. That's just insane.
Yeah. And this poor kid, talk about feeling like a pariah. You were singled out.
To sit separately. From everybody.
Again, during a active shooter drill. Seriously? Nobody can make sense out of this for me.
The depth of my anger about that is just huge.
It really is.
And I can only imagine how angry trans people are.
If I had a kid in that school, I'd pull him right out because
I would too.
I wouldn't feel like my kid would be safe.
They're certainly not saying that your life matters.
Well, here's why I would say I would worry that my kid isn't safe. If the teachers are busy arguing about whether or not this one kid should come in here, they're not paying attention to your kids either.
Yeah.
No.
But it shouldn't have to. It shouldn't have to be. Can you possibly put yourselves in the same shoes? You shouldn't have to do that to get.
I'm saying
reaction.
I'm saying these teachers were endangering the lives of all of the kids because they couldn't figure out. Oh, we protect all of our kids.
Yeah, that's. The whole thing is just.
I mean, I simply. What did they think that this kid was going to do? Go in at this point when you're hiding. An eighth grader. At this point, you're not thinking about if you have to go to the bathroom. You're not going in there to pee. You're not going in there to change clothes. You're hiding and praying that you don't get shot. That's all that matters.
Shot dead.
So I don't know what seriously. What did they think this trans student was going to do? At that point, they treated her like she was the active shooter, like she was the threat, and that's horrible.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Their misplaced priorities put all kids in danger.
Yep. Yep.
If I had a kid in that school, my kid would no longer be in that school because their teachers and administration aren't mature enough to take care of these kids.
It's the whole thing is just disgusting.
Yeah,
it's
it
just
really
so
is.
disgusting.
And that was in Virginia, if I didn't make that clear. It's not Texas.
Yeah, lately crazy is coming from other parts of the country. Speaking of Kanye.
Oh, must we?
Yeah, must we?
No, we have a phone. Let me see if it's them and
They'll
continue.
talk.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, did you see it?
I only saw about 20 seconds. I couldn't go.
It was hard to watch. It was hard to watch, and I really don't have much to say about it. It's just whatever.
I'm hoping that when we finally see the Saturday Night Live spoof of it, that it really zings him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's been ridiculous from the get-go.
Okay, we have Pat on the line, and she's going to patch in Sandy. Pat, are you there?
I'm here. We're both here.
You're both here.
Yeah.
Welcome to Lambda Weekly.
Thank you so much.
We were just chatting a little bit. So your flight actually landed on time?
I did. We landed early, which is
in
really
New York.
nice.
It landed on time in New York?
Yeah.
What airport? White Plains?
LaGuardia.
Oh, LaGuardia?
Yeah.
That does not happen. Ever. So Sandy Apatow and Pat Humphreys you have other group members too, yes?
We are basically a duo of Pat and me, and we, on this video, which I think is what you maybe sent your way, we have some other musicians who joined us, some wonderful friends from the Bay Area. Electric guitar player named Shelley Doty, and Vicki Randall, who some of your listeners might know. She was with the Tonight Show band for many years, and now she's with Mavis Staples band. And also our friend Sophia Betancourt, who both of those, Vicki and Sophia sang, and Vicki played cajon.
And, okay, now I just wanted to get personal to start. The two of you used to be partners.
Yes, we did.
And you're traveling
For
together
13 years.
for how long?
For 13 years. we were
13
married.
years. But you're not anymore.
Nope, not for the last 4. But,
And you travel together.
We do.
Oh, okay. That's great.
Say, where are you going with that, David?
I don't know. I just want to convey to our guests that our guests are, or I want to convey to our listeners that our guests are a little bit nuts.
I don't know. I think the other way might be more that.
That's true. That's true. No. Let me just introduce you a little bit. Your group is called Emma's Revolution. New York Times called you fervent and heartfelt. And you have a new song called I Believe Her.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a break in about 10 minutes, and we'll come back and listen to the song then. But we were debating at the beginning of the show, her. Who is her? Tell us how the song came about.
Sure. Well, we were asked to sing at a vigil in support of Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, and that was the Sunday before her testimony, which folks may remember was a couple Thursdays ago. And we are activist musicians, so our music, is tailored to, and we present it for issues and movements across the country. And so we wanted to come to that demonstration with a song in hand that people could sing with us. And so she was sort of the initial I Believe Her. Everything we'd heard up to that point, and even once we heard the hearing, it was clear that she had something to say, and she knew what she was talking about, and she should be listened to, and there should be a full investigation. So, but when we wrote the song, it was before the hearings had happened. So we didn't just want to refer to Dr. Ford, but also to Dr. Anita Hill. I remember being in Washington, D.C. at those I Believe Anita Hill rallies. There was the big demonstration. And then the third verse of the song refers just to women everywhere who, no matter where we are often under, there's a possibility that we could be assaulted or raped or any of these things that these really courageous women have been coming up and coming out of the shadows, really, to talk about the reality of sexual assault in our culture.
I can hardly believe that we are in 2018 and women are not being believed. It's still shocking to me. And even in the state of Texas, we have 19,000 rape kits that have never been tested because women are not a priority in our state. And we had a local Dallas representative in the Texas House got a bill passed to crowdsource it, essentially, when you go to the DMV to get your license renewed.
To ask for $1.
You just volunteer and pay up, and I paid $50 into that fund when I went to get my license done, and they like said, "Hey, she just gave $50 like it was a big deal." Yeah. But that's what we're doing to get rape kits tested in our state for years, backlog of years.
It is outrageous, and it's amazing that they've done it. That they've at least done this, where you have this crowdsourcing opportunity, because otherwise, this stuff is just getting ignored.
Do you know what I thought was interesting about the hearings? CNN kept showing pieces of the Anita Hill hearing, and it was interesting how her testimony still holds up. She was credible. She was believable. She was intelligent. She was. She gave the information. This one, again, she was Ford. I'm talking about. She was also intelligent, but she was a little bit more. How would you describe her?
I thought that she was fully vulnerable, more vulnerable
than Anita Hill. Anita Hill was strong. Kersey Ford was vulnerable, but she remembered what she remembered, and what she didn't remember were things that experts said, yeah, that's normal. That's the kind of thing that you don't remember about an event like that. And yet, her testimony was listened to, and when it was over, thank you very much, and bye.
Yep. Yeah, and Kavanaugh, on the other hand, behaved like some, combination of a 2-year-old having a temper tantrum and some playground bully that was just going to force his view of what happened on everybody, and anybody who challenged him, he would dismiss. It was completely outrageous. I can't believe that we have someone with the temperament of an adolescent boy on the Supreme Court. It's outrageous.
So let me ask you, do you like beer? We actually have as our guest next week.
That was astounding.
Stephen Kirkland, who's running for the Supreme Court here, because all of our judges in Texas are elected. We have first time a gay person is running for Texas Supreme Court. He's going to be on our show next week, and we do have to ask him whether or not he likes beer.
Yeah, we do.
Yes.
But I heard a great thing this week that said, if the Republicans want to investigate Hillary again, they can only do it for 1 week, and they can't talk to Hillary.
That's right. That's great.
And it needs to not be done by the Federal Bureau of whatever the I stands for.
Yeah.
Because they don't do investigations.
That's not their thing.
That's not their thing.
Yeah, right.
I don't know that we can dismiss the FBI as much as we have to point out that the White House really tied their hands. And
they railroaded this through.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, because I think it's dangerous, this whole thing about the way the Trump administration and Trump himself wants us all to stop believing in a government that we have created. And I don't believe in him. I don't think he won that election, and he should be in that office. He's patently unqualified. But I really am concerned about sort of throwing all of our institutions under the bus, because some of these people want that. That's what they want. They want us all to be at each other's throats and not believing that we can create something better together. And we stand definitely for the knowing that people can create good and workable and peaceful and sustainable choices in our country and in the world.
Yeah, because the fact that our president is not credible, he projects onto everything else around him, whether it be the media or any of the other institutions, full of career professionals that have been there long before anyone ever imagined some idiot like Trump would occupied that office, and call them and say that they're lacking in credibility. It's classic narcissism.
Okay, you mentioned that Trump is an idiot. Here's my favorite idiot Trump story for this week. The American pastor was held in Turkey for a couple of years, and the Trump administration, I guess one way or another, they got him out. He was at the White House this week, and Trump asked him, "So did you vote for me?"
Oh my God. He's such an embarrassment.
Yes, while I was in prison, I applied for an absentee ballot just so I could vote for you.
And the Turkish government,
passed it along to him so he could vote and made sure it got sent in on time.
Right. And yes, sir, that's why you rescued me, right? I mean, like I think the man has to prove his loyalty in order to have been gotten out of prison there. I mean, wow.
And what if he'd said, "No, I didn't vote for you"? Well, you get to go back to that Turkish prison.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What a stupid question, though. This man doesn't understand what he was involved in getting him out. He doesn't understand that he did that, or what it was that he was getting him out of.
It's alarming. The level and we hear a lot about it. Obviously, all of us in the news, about his reading level or his comprehension level or whatever. I mean, it's alarming. And of course, we know that really dangerous things are happening to all of our communities, to women, to the LGBT community, to people of color. This is reality that things are changing for how our lives are going to be affected by all of what all of the dangerous things that Trump does, whether he understands them fully or not.
We need to take a break. You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis and the late Patti Fink. Our guests are Sandy Apatow and Pat Humphreys of Emma's Revolution. Sandy and Pat, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back and listen to your song, and then you can talk a little bit about it.
Great.
Okay, good. We'll be back with more right after this.
I'm Jelinsky Brown with Research in the United Black Element, and I listen to Lambda Weekly radio program on 89.3 K9, the voice of the people. I am the people, so hear me speak.
I believe, so no one could hear. I believe her. Put his hands on her. I believe. Covered up her mouth. I believe. But the truth is out. I believe her. I believe. I believe. I believe. I believe. I believe. I
That's I Believe Her by Emma's Revolution, and song about Susan Collins, was it? No?
I don't believe her.
You don't? Oh, Pat, Sandy, would you like to weigh in on Susan Collins and her nonsense last week?
I really can't. I can't imagine what kind of pressure she must have been under to be willing to say what she said. It was so completely removed from reality.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, it felt like such a profound betrayal. She must be feeling incredibly threatened.
Either that or she really likes beer too.
Well,
Right.
I heard somebody
We
put
hear
it.
from people in Maine, people in our audiences that are from Maine who are saying,
Sure.
the media likes to play her as somewhere in the middle of the road, as a potential swing vote on things, but she does it every time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
She shifts as if she's going to do something, and then she just falls back in line with the hard right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's been said by pundits that never before in the history of this country have we seen Republicans eagerly debase themselves in service to Trump. And that was exactly what she did.
Yeah.
And you combine that
all of
with the white male privilege that screamed during the tantrum.
Yeah.
He felt he was entitled to that seat.
Absolutely.
And they felt he was too.
Well, I like the way they were talking about how dare they ruin a man's life. Well, he's a federal court appeals court judge on the second highest court in the country. If that's a matter of ruining somebody's life because you can't be on the highest court, my life is my life is in tatters then.
Well, and these women
I'm not even up for a federal court seat.
These women who have been attacked don't.
Yeah.
It doesn't even come close to them.
Right, that's a classic thing. So I saw someone, another person in our audiences who was posting on Facebook, and she said, let me get this straight. When it's a young man who's committed assault, then we're ruining his future if we hold him accountable. And then when it's a mature, quote unquote, man who's trying to be held accountable for the sexual assault, then we're ruining his reputation. So there's just no way to win on this. Like somehow the men are always the victims, even when they're the perpetrators. It really has to be changed, and that's why it's amazing to see so many groups take action. I don't know if your listeners have seen it already, but if you go to, I think it's BrettKavanaugh.com, actually. It might be .org, can't remember. But what they did with that URL is that it gets you to groups that help survivors.
And it opens up with a photo that says, "We believe survivors."
That's right. And it's important, as much as this stuff is just like so devastating, we also have to know and find and seek out the people who are working to make change. And that's why we wrote the song, to give people something like I've said it. So we've sung it at a number of demonstrations since, so that there's a moment when people can, put all their energy into that phrase, I believe her, singing it with us. And art and also all the activism that's going on now, these groups, certainly the Me Too movement, Time's Up, but all of these groups that have been working for so long are finally getting the attention and support. And also people who need that kind of support from those groups are hopefully finding it easier to get that kind of support. So we have to keep ourselves energized to really continue to push against the Trump agenda and push back. And of course, the midterms are crucial in that. We need to get people out to vote, and we need to make sure that their votes get counted. But I want to put in a vote for keeping optimistic, and we have to make this, we have to turn this around.
Well, I think if anyone is sane and has been watching the idiot box lately and watched Trump at his rallies, we see that they're idiots because he talks at length about there's no due process anymore, and young men in this country are at risk, and there's you're innocent until proven guilty, and it's followed immediately in the next breath by a chant he leads them in of lock her up.
Right. And it's not like he's making it seem as though had Kavanaugh not been confirmed, he would have gone to jail. It was a choice of either he gets imprisoned for rape.
He should have. He lied to Congress.
Yes,
Well,
repeatedly.
He committed lots of illegal
Perjury.
acts. The man has no business being on the bench anywhere.
Who was it? Was it Schumer who said if the Democrats take control of the Senate, there's going to be an investigation of him?
Well, the state of Maryland has said so because there's no statute of limitations on rape and
But that's for the rape. Schumer's talking about the hearing, the testimony,
About the perjury.
the perjury.
And have you all seen the new ridiculous Him Too movement?
No.
Yes.
Oh, you haven't seen it? It's basically, I think it was started by a mom who posted basically defending what the whole point of it is men who've been falsely accused. Him Too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hashtag Him
Which
Too.
are a tiny percentage of.
And there are a few.
There are a few, but it's a very small
But
amount.
it's a tiny percentage, and of course, everybody should be heard. That's the thing. That's the thing that we all push for.
Mm-hmm.
We push for an actual investigation. And Dr. Christine Blasey Ford was the first one to say, yes, let's do an investigation.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah,
She
and
begged
I
for it.
also like to. Yes, yes, and it's important to point out. So there's a small proportion of false accusations, and there's a proportion of accusations that actually happen. But the majority of women
Vast majority.
and men and everybody who experiences sexual assault, the majority of those people do not even report. So that, to me, is a larger problem. We heard, the reports about what was happening in Pennsylvania with I guess it's Archbishop or Cardinal being held accountable. And there was some kind of study, and they talked about the kids who were sexually abused when they were children. The average age of when they finally start talking about it and report it is 52.
Wow.
And you can't prosecute or go for damages over the age of 50.
Right, exactly.
guess who wrote these laws?
Like, how did they know? How did they know that? But so yes, all of that, and I just think it's really crucial to consider what large, enormous proportion of people are never reporting because this is what's happened.
Mm-hmm.
This is what happens when you do report.
Yeah,
And they're
For
pushing
now.
to end.
Right.
Oh, sorry. They're pushing to end the statute of limitations on abuse within the church and children, and they ought to do the same thing for sexual assault.
I'm working on a story that might be in our paper this week. It's about a couple of women who were raped in their apartment. And the reason that they were raped was the way the rapist got in was the window latches did not work. They had already reported that the windows weren't working, and instead of replacing the window frame, they put putty in the frame so that the latches latched into putty, so he was able to just open the window. He's in prison because these women were wonderful. They came forward, they helped the police find him, they identified him, they testified. And then they sued the apartment complex for not fixing the windows. Yeah. And they won a multi-million-dollar judgment. It went to the Texas appeals court, and it was overturned. Coincidentally, two of the judges who are up for re-election this year received donations just months before they overturned this case from the apartment association. Texas.
They should have recused themselves.
Of course they should have recused themselves. And now they've turned down a second appeal, and it has to. The only thing these two women have left is to go to the Supreme Court. It was a rape that was so gruesome. It was really a violent rape, and these damages that they were asking for.
All of them are violent.
Well, I'm talking about. Physically violent. That there was. They had several operations in order to repair. In addition to all the emotional trauma that they went through. So the damages that they were going for were to pay medical bills. Overturned. Mm-hmm.
That's Texas for you, though.
Yeah, exactly. So two of the judges. God, I can't remember their names. I'd love to give their names on the air. These are two that absolutely should not be on a court. You recuse yourself if you
you're in the pocket of the apartment association.
Clearly, they're okay with corruption.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
So let's just expose them for that. You know,
We will, and I'll have their names next week. So
great.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
yeah, and these two women, when I've written about them several times, I had to put a disclaimer at the beginning of the story that they wanted their names in the paper because the way one of them put it was, I didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
Use my name. It was out there in the trial and used my name.
Yeah.
Good for them.
So,
Good for them. It takes a lot of courage.
Oh, it does. Oh,
to be willing to do that.
It does. I mean, these two are like they're heroes after what they went through.
And I think it would be a great thing. Ruth Bader Ginsburg has been asked in the past, like, how many women would be enough women on the Supreme Court, and she said 9. And she said, when there were 9 men, nobody said a thing. Nobody cared. That wasn't a big deal.
Had any problem with that.
And so, I would love to have let's give us even 20 years. I'd love for the rest of time to say that the default now is going to be that women are believed. And then you have to be on the defensive if you did not, because it would straighten men up if they knew that they were always on the hook. And if we get to the place where women, as the population of the United States, are 51%, we can do that in Congress and in state houses and in local governments. Things would change.
Proportional representation. That's
Yes. Here's what I don't get. Here's the part of it I don't get. You teach your kids proper behavior, and one of the things that I would think you would teach your kids is, by the way, if you're a guy, you don't rape women. You just don't do that.
Somebody tweeted this week that a straight man certainly understands the concept of affirmative consent when a gay man touches them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
They get consent. They get the idea of consent then.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately.
Right.
Yeah, and we're going to have to do something about our culture. Our culture sensationalizes sexual assault and rape. I can't tell you how many stories. So everything from operas to plays to books. We all know this. Really sort of titillizes, or makes it titillating to have violence involved with sex, and that's a problem. In addition to, I agree with you, we should be able to teach our kids, to know when there is consent, and to also know how to give consent and when and how not to give consent and how to receive that. But at the same time, there's so much in the culture that stacks the deck and creates this kind of very messy dynamic and dangerous dynamic.
Mm-hmm. And it's too, people would say, a woman could say, "Oh, someone hit my car when I was driving," and people would believe them, but they don't believe it when somebody says somebody attacked my body.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And they're not believed. So,
That's great.
Sandy, Pat, we are.
They still own women's bodies,
Yeah,
exactly.
It's true.
Sandy and Pat, I want to thank you for being with us. We are out of time. I'm so glad your flight was early, so that you were able to get on. We were kind of worried about that, but have a good rest of your weekend, and come on again.
Yeah, come back.
Yeah, when there's another controversial something and you've written a song about it, let us know.
We will. We'll certainly let you know, and I do want to let people know that they can see the video and download the song on our website, emmasrevolution.com. Woman's name, Emma, with an S and the word revolution. You can find us on YouTube and on Facebook,
and we'll have it on our posts.
Really be getting around. Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for having us on.
Thank you for being on.